2, 1, go.
Welcome into Inside Press Box. I'm Stan the Fan Charles of Press Box and PressBoxOnline.com. And with me, as always on Thursdays, is at Eric_Birdland, Eric Garfield. And we're here to talk a little bit about the Orioles minor league system, the ups and the downs, and everything in between. First, let me tell you that we are brought to you by our friends at the new Atman's Deli in Baltimore's Harbor Point. Corned beef piled high, hand-rolled bagels, and something different. A bar. Atman's has food and drink specials every day. They're now open for breakfast. That's right, you heard me. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dine in, grab takeout, or hang out at the bar for the next O's game. And that means like tonight when the O's play in Chicago against the Chicago White Sox. Grayson Rodriguez against Mike Clevenger. Atman's Deli. An authentic taste of Baltimore tradition since 1915. Find them at Harbor Point or visit atmansdeli.com. Give you a little secret, even though there is some parking in the exact vicinity of it, it can be paid parking and it can be a little bit pricey. But if you're on a budget, this is walking distance from Fells Point, where you can get on meters there or pay for parking that's a little less expensive at Atman's Deli at Harbor Point, okay? We're also brought to you by A.J. Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning. What company makes your home more energy efficient, kills all allergen and viruses, and qualifies you for $6,000 in rebates? That would be A.J. Michaels. Turn to the experts, A.J. Michaels and Carrier. We're also brought to you by the Costas Inn, and we'll talk a little bit more about the Costas Inn midway through the show. Now joining me, speaking with experts, Eric Garfield, who knows a thing or two about the Orioles farm system. Eric, since we last talked last week, we had what I consider like obviously a freakish injury, but it's devastating for the season that Coby Mayo was having and the comfort level I know that he gave Mike Elias and Brandon Hyde and Sig Mejdal, that there was a guy in waiting that really could come up and help the ball club. What's the latest on his condition? We know he fractured a rib. Tell us a little bit more.
He ran into the dugout at Norfolk or maybe on the road, and he broke one rib on his left side. His pain level upon injury was low. It was about a week ago, 6 days ago. His pain level since then is almost non-existent, which is really good.
That's great news
for him and for the idea of it being a short-term thing instead of a long-term thing. So he's not dealing with pain. He's not dealing with discomfort. When an injury like this occurs, the organization has a couple things they have to look at. Do they want him to rehab where he is, or do they want to send him down here to Sarasota to rehab and go through some of the stretching, the activating, and the different measures to accelerate healing here? And they decided to send him here. So Coby is in Sarasota right now. He's going to have his I guess initial X-ray 2 weeks from that Friday. So it's about 8 days away from now.
So tomorrow will be a 1 week, right?
1 week. Yep. And if everything looks good, which if he's in zero pain, we expect it's going to look just fine. Everything looks good. He'll play in 2 FCL games. No more rehab assignment. He doesn't have to climb the ladder. He'll just get sent right back to Norfolk. So I calculated it. If that timeline is correct, he's going to miss between 48 and 60 at bats. So not a huge chunk of the season, but a percent.
And is that what you're hearing? Is that coming from training staff, medical people you've talked to that are familiar with this type of injury?
I've communicated with Mayo's camp
Okay.
and that more than the team, but you can follow the team's protocol from certain injuries that aren't like season ending. You know, they have a pattern. They do things a certain way, and this is the way they usually handle them.
I'm just throwing this at you personally. When you
Yeah.
had your accident, when you were hit by a car on your bike, did you have any fractured ribs?
My entire left side of my rib cage was cracked, and it was extremely painful, even just breathing. Horrible, horrible pain. This
Okay.
is, it's an injury to the same body part, but it's really not on
Not
the,
close to what you experienced. Okay.
no, Coby is a big, tough, 6'5", 230
Yeah, but
pound guy.
you were in pretty damn good shape when you had your accident, you know.
Yeah, but not
I mean, you
still
weren't
not like
like
Coby Mayo.
overweight and out of shape or anything like that. And it can be pretty devastating.
It would have hurt.
From what you know about this, what's the biggest concern about coming back too soon with something like this? It doesn't feel painful now, but there's a lot of torque involved with a swing.
Yep.
Can
That
you,
that that is it. That's something that they have to worry about, and it's hard to stimulate that kind of motion unless you really do it. So I'm gonna say with a guy that tall that plays third, maybe planting his feet and extending to throw, his right side. If something isn't perfect on his left side, it might be awkward in terms of compensating. So right there, and yeah, he has a very violent swing where he kind of crouches down and crunches his core. So right there, really any part of the swing could, I don't want to say refracture, but cause damage to a fracture that's not
not fully
100%
healed?
healed.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that's why, even though now he probably could go, they're just going to give him the full two
Yep.
week window just to make sure.
And would you assume when he does come back, both in the FCL for a couple games and then gets back to Norfolk, wouldn't it make sense 5 games, 6 games, something like that, to have him DH only?
I I, I am a little hesitant. Yes, yeah, I would say yes, it would. Coby is a little
He'd still take some grounders, but he knows the ball's coming.
right.
He's not making twitch movements, you know.
What I prefer is to play a guy 3 innings at a time in his reintroduction, no matter what position it is. Give him two at bats, maybe two, at the max, four chances in the field. Then he can sit and someone else can do it. Just get his body back to that routine of
Gotcha.
being used and standing up for a while. So everybody does it a little bit differently. I tend to want to reduce the innings. Coby's very different. The second he gets there, he's going to want to play third. He's
Yep.
going to want to play 5 at bats a game. So we'll
Yep.
see where the negotiations with him and Buck Britton end up.
And would you think though that the initial reaction was it was going to be several weeks? We look like sounding like it could be 3 to 4 weeks now. That sounds like an optimistic but
Yeah.
reasonable return level.
If he misses a month from this injury and the impact of this injury,
Right.
I'd be very surprised. I think it's
Okay.
going to be
All right.
less than that. 60
All
at bats over the course of a 500 at bat season.
right. Okay. Want to move from Coby Mayo to one of his teammates down at Norfolk. After he ascended to be the #1 prospect in baseball and was sent out at the beginning of the baseball season to Norfolk. He lasted in Norfolk about 10 or 12 days, maybe 15 days, and then he came up and he lasted about 12 days in the major leagues. He's down in the minors, not setting the world on fire.
Yep.
And to add a little injury to insult, and again, I don't want to make too much of this, but Paul Skeens is now the #1 prospect in baseball. Jackson Holliday, though, it's not like he skidded down to number 8 or 9. He's #2 right now. But more importantly, he's not doing a lot of the things that he was doing at every level last year and initially this year at Norfolk.
Well, one thing to look at big picture wise is he's still great at baseball. He will be for a very long time. And now his minor league resume has about 650 at bats. So you can look at it and be like, okay, he's put up a full season's
Yeah.
worth of playing opportunity or hitting opportunities in the minors. And his numbers after that are 310 average, 17 home runs, over 30 steals, and an OPS of 920. So even though he's experiencing what we call slump right now, it hasn't affected his ability or his statistical foundation. Now, he's making less contact percentage wise, which is a little off. And when he is, it's not with the barrel of the bat. So he's not driving the ball where he's used to, and he's not impacting the ball with the larger exit or the higher end exit velocities that we're used to. So we can look at what he's doing right now, even though he's hitting 260, even though his on base percentage is 430, because he walks so much, we can call it a slump. Everybody looks at it a little bit differently. Some people might get angry, point a finger, he's a bad draft pick or he's a bust. I'm very, very different. I like for athletes like him to experience adversity, no matter where it is. If it's in his third season or if it's here in the middle of his development, I think there's more to be gained from what you learn from playing this way and underperforming than there is to go undefeated or to bat 400 all the time. You need to learn a little bit from failure to be good at this game. It tests you that way.
A question, is he being tested more physically or psychologically, or is it now seeped in that it's a bit of a combination of both?
I'm going to say, from what I've seen from him physically, he knows what the grind entails, and he's ready for that. He might not look like, be built like an NFL running back, but he can last a season. He can play standing up every game all year long. I don't think regular baseball work is what's wearing on him. I just think it's the first time he's experienced major underperforming. A lot of eyes are on him. He's already had that number one ranking that used to be his only. It's no longer his at all. It might never come back. Now it's time to get on with the part of you actually being good at baseball. So he's got to figure out, has to figure out how to get back to that level. And for some guys, it takes years. I don't think it's going to do anything like that with Holliday. I think he's going to perform well, reach the standards that he usually has, and end up with great stats for the Tides this year or for whenever he comes up. I think he's going to bat higher than 59 in the major leagues.
All right. Well, the promising part is that on-base percentage, because his on-base percentage was in some ways, I mean, obviously his batting average sucked. Everything sucked about his performance in the major leagues for 9-10 games. But the on-base percentage, that's something that he's had straight on through. And that was a little disconcerting, is how much he got out of his game by helping the pitchers.
And
it was, as we've talked before,
and if he was doing bad,
ad infinitum about this, every at bat seemed like he was 0-2 before he got settled.
But the walks show that on the other side of the coin, when it's a 3-ball count, he doesn't feel more pressure to do something. He'll take ball 4. And I gotta say, if he was batting 059 and had a low on base percentage or was not doing that, then we might have reason to actually worry. But I'm nowhere near that level of concern. Right. Nowhere near it.
That sounds good. Luke and I went with a buddy of mine and met Luke out there. We went to Aberdeen last night. I want to talk a little bit about what I saw out there, and 3 in particular. The pitcher that we saw pitch, Jacob Baumeister, the number 2 draft pick last year, the highest pick Elias has used on a pitcher since he's been with the Orioles. Enrique Bradfield, who plays center field, and he's pretty good at that. And I want to talk about, is it Matt Etzel?
Absolutely, yep.
Yeah,
excellent hitter.
About those 3 players. Let me tell the folks a little bit about something I know about, and that's the Costas Inn. They're located at 4100 North Point Boulevard. They've only been there for 50-plus years. So that's a pretty good sign if you're thinking of looking for a new restaurant. and you live somewhere in the neighborhood, the Costas Inn has been a beacon of light in that neighborhood. They do a lot for the community there. They've always been open doors there for a lot of needs and causes in the area. They could use you right now because a lot of people that used to drive over from, say, Catonsville or Glen Burnie, and it was 20, 25 minutes. It's now like an hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes to get to the Costas Inn. 4100 North Point Boulevard. Check out the menu online at costasinn.com. And again, if you are planning, and you can do takeout where you order online, pay for it online, and they'll bring it out to your car when you get there. So you don't even have to get into the restaurant. They've really upped their game in the takeout area. But also remember, if you are anxious to put together a crab feast with your friends and family, or a bunch of buddies to watch a ball game or something like that, the Costas Inn welcomes you, but they need you to call first at 410-477-1975 to check the availability, price point, and size of the crabs to make sure your dining experience for crabs is super duper at the Costas Inn. All right, now back to the show with Eric Garfield on this inside press box. Eric, last night, Jacob Baumeister, Jackson Baumeister, I'm sorry. Jackson Baumeister, when I looked at his stats going out there, I think he had 7 games, 7 starts, and he only thrown 25 innings. Last night, though, it's no surprise when you do look at his numbers. I think he has like in 25 innings, even though his ERA is like 2.8 and the strikeouts are fine, his walks, I think he had about 18 walks in 25 innings. And I think he walked 3 or 4 batters last night. But yet when he left, he had 70, 75 pitches. When he left, the opposition hadn't put a run across on him. So overall, I think the Orioles have, I'm not saying he's ready to be a superstar. He's a work in progress, but I could see him possibly being at Bowie, July 1, July, right after July 4th, and get 6 or 7 weeks in at Double-A. Your thoughts on the kind of season he's having right now?
I think you've stated it very clearly. The deficiencies in his profile are 3-ball execution and really not much else. His pitch metrics show that his breaking ball is fooling an adequate number of high A hitters. So promotion is within reason. And in some organizations, he might be promoted right now or next week. But I think he needs to show that he'll walk a little less high A batters before they try his stuff out in Double-A. Once he does that, he's up.
Luke brought up a real good point last night.
He does often.
His curveball is
big.
He gets great usage out of that, but he wouldn't learn anything if he suddenly went, well, I'm going to throw 60% of curveballs right now. That's not the right thing for him to do right now. He's got to learn to get by without that curve, other than on a few occasions.
Sequencing is a big part of developing any particular pitcher, but in minor league spring training and the very beginning of extended spring training, it seemed like that actually was his objective. 6 out of 10 pitches need to be a breaking ball or more, and he was dominating some of these minor league spring training games, also going 3, no more than 4 innings at a time. But it seems very clear that's what they want out of him. Lower that whip. I think it was like 1.4. Get it down to the high 1.2s, and we will send you up to different coaches that can help you and teach you this way, and you'll be facing Double-A bats. So we have a great gauge of where your breaking ball arsenal is. He looks like you said, a work in progress, but the early signs are pretty good draft pick, pretty good use of that draft slot right there. I like
They,
Baumeister.
they had a couple other pitchers came in. They had a left-hander, Devi Cruz came in,
Excellent.
who's yeah, he's got some talent, but he's
Yep.
all over the place. His release
Correct.
speed, a little erratic. And there was a kid named Brenner that came in.
Brad Bremer, draft pick from
Bramer.
Indiana University.
What's his first name?
Bradley.
Bradley.
Yep.
He was kind of impressive to me. I
The
thought he
Orioles
was
have a good system.
yeah, he was kind of sneaky quick. Enrique Bradfield, is he surprising you at all that he's getting his swing in better condition than it was?
No, because that's the thing that so many developmental resources are going into. They want, there's baseball players, you'll see them all the time, no matter what profile they are. Their natural swing is just under the ball. They hit the bottom of the baseball and loft it up immediately. They have low ground ball rates, high fly ball, and high line drive rates. That's really in 2024 what you want. Bradfield is not that naturally. So they're trying so hard to get him to attack that bottom part of the baseball, drive it up, get it over an outfielder, and then you can run and run and run some more. So Luke actually texted me one of his shots last night. Looked like it was going to be a home run off
Yeah,
the
he
bat.
hit a ball
And,
deep to he hit it to deep left field, I think.
right.
Yeah.
So
And he's a
again,
left-handed hit. He was batting left-handed.
there's a lot of ways to measure progress and to measure success developmentally. Him driving the ball far is a victory for all these coaches. Now he has to do it for hits and then extra base hits. Then we can gauge where he's at. And to answer your question, you asked, am I surprised? I have to say, yes, I actually am a little surprised. I thought this part of the process would take considerably longer. Just
Um,
another way of saying the Orioles system gets a lot of things done.
just one other question, and I know you're not up here in Aberdeen, and I don't know how you'd actually find this out, but you saw him specifically working with the coaches, working on his bunting. Do you
Yep.
know if he's bunting a little bit up here?
From what I've read and looking at the scores, it seemed I would expect it to be happening a bit more.
More, right? That's
But
what I
he's good
was.
at it. He can use it to get on base. So maybe like the coaching attitude is he's already got this skill. We don't need to
Yep.
work on this. We need to address deficiencies first. So he's bunting. I thought it would be a little bit more, but not as much as I thought.
Okay, because
Good weapon for him.
he does have tremendous speed,
Yep.
and he is an A-rated defender,
Yep.
And unlike
Totally agree.
Cedric, he has a reasonable arm. I
Yep.
won't call it a cannon, but it's a reasonable arm. Tell me about this Etzel. I
Oof.
looked up this. First of all, he's got terrific bat speed. He really does have terrific bat speed. He didn't connect with anything last night, but the second time he was up, or maybe the third time, I looked up and saw the scoreboard there. It's a little hard to read sometimes. It's got so much information. And I saw 20 stolen bases. And I said to Luke, this guy's got 20 stolen bases already. And I know all of his numbers are real positive 287, OPS like 855, something like that. But 20 steals is really impressive for this point of the season.
He is a fast base runner, fast out of the box, someone that doesn't necessarily have that speed in the outfield. So offensively, he's fast. You read a lot of numbers. He's also batting 297 or right in that 300 range. I'm going to look at his 14 or 15% walk rate. That's why he's on base all the time to be able to steal successfully 20 out of 25 opportunities. In modern baseball, where the strikeout kind of plateau is around 30%, he's lessened his under 20. So this guy, basically what we said is he's doing every single thing right. Not as just a, hey, I'm a mid-round draft pick, pay attention to me, like maybe as a, hey, think of me as a future big leaguer or find where I fit into a 40-man roster. I can tell you there's times when like real Orioles people, sometimes executives come outside and sit on the bleachers and more than one have talked about Etzel, why they love him. His bat speed is through the roof,
Yeah.
and he, by a significant measure, uses the heaviest bat in the organization. So that talks about how strong his arms, his wrists, and his forearms are to bat 300 with something that's almost a full ounce larger than somebody like O'Hearn or Santander or Coby. So Etzel is super strong.
So with the numbers he's got, is he waiting at Bowie for one of those guys to get a call to go up to Norfolk, either Fabian or Beavers?
That is a good, yeah. You know what? He's exactly 1 year behind them developmentally,
Yeah.
even though he's 22, right? Yeah, yes. I'm gonna say yes. And when that happens, if everybody in Aberdeen is auditioning for a AA outfield spot, he's winning that competition far and away. I like Elio Prado a ton, but he has not. I think he batted third for you guys last night. He has not put together that 3 or 4 week stretch where we can say he's hot enough, move him up.
Is his
Yeah,
20
Etzel.
is his 20 stolen bases, Eric? Is that the highest of any player in the system for this point? It just seemed that's on pace for like, am I right? It's on pace for about a 60, 65 steals or something like that.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit more, maybe even
70.
yeah, 67 or 70. And I know that when I look at who's stealing the most bases, it's usually Aberdeen, and he is the leader because I want to see if anybody has more than Bradfield. So he does. I'm just going to guess that yeah, he's got the most in the organization. Kind of a surprise. I mean,
Yeah.
he's fast. There's other faster accelerators, but he's on base so much. Why not? If that offense needs a jump start, take the free base.
Saw Creed Williams last night. He DH'd last night. Didn't blow me away with anything, but he's a bit, you know what you got with him. He's a big swinger, and sometimes he's not going to, catch up. But I liked him. The pitcher that pitched for Jersey City last night, really, did Luke tell you about him?
That guy Pitts, his name is Sam Aldegheri from Italy. He
He's from
started
Italy, born in Italy, not like born and moved here when he was 2.
No, he's Italian.
From Italy. Yeah. He was impressive.
He's a full strikeout pitcher with 4 good pitches,
Yeah.
and he's lefty, and he's in a system that really knows how to burst pitchers upwards. The closest stadium to me is Bradenton. Last year, when his team Clearwater came to Bradenton, they pitched a no-hitter, and he was the starter. He pitched 5 no-hit innings as part of a combined no-hitter. Samuel Aldegheri.
Aldegheri.
Yep.
He reminded me of
you had
Greg
fun last night.
He reminded me of Greg Swindell when Swindell first came up. Had a very heavy ball. It was hard. Guys spun it back, fouling a lot of balls off. They had a hard time barreling it up on him.
I wonder how many listeners of ours remember 1986 Greg Swindell, because you just described him pretty perfectly. That's a very good comp, by the way.
I'm pretty good with my comps sometimes. Hey, really appreciate some great information tonight.
Absolutely.
We'll be back next week on the show. Want to thank our friends at the new Atman's Deli in Baltimore's Harbor Point. Again, remember, they're open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Dine in, grab takeout, or hang out at the bar for the next O's game like tonight. Atman's Deli, an authentic taste of Baltimore's tradition since 1915. Find them at Harbor Point or visit atmansdeli.com. Also brought to you by the great Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard, and also brought to you by our friends at A.J. Michaels Heating and Air Conditioning. A.J. Michaels and Carrier at ajmichaels.com. For Eric Garfield, I'm Stan the Fan Charles, and we'll be back at you soon. Have a great holiday weekend, everybody. Bye.